start, when will the study be carried out?
So the study's basically starting as of now in a way. So the project started up on the 1st of October and will run over the course of 5 years. My first trip out to Chernobyl is going to be in November, and that's where we're going to be setting up the initial study sites and deciding on exactly how we're going to proceed with the study.
Okay. And are there any special preparations that need to be made for this study?
We've clearly got to make sure that all of the radiation risk assessment work is done well in advance, because for people working in the Chernobyl exclusion zone, there's clearly a potential risk or a potential hazard that needs to be managed. So we're going to be continuing with our standard risk assessment protocols here, but also working very closely with colleagues in Ukraine to put together our full risk assessment, and they work in the zone on a regular basis, so they're able to advise us on exactly how to proceed, where to work, etc.
What exactly are the dangers of this study?
So it's the dangers really about the level of ionising radiation that we would get exposed to by spending particularly long periods of time in certain study locations. The zone has very patchy contamination, so there are some areas in the zone which are highly contaminated, some with much lower levels of contamination, and as you move between these different patches, there's nothing that you can see that physically tells you whether or not something is contaminated. The only way you know is from the dose meter that you carry with you. So if something starts to beep or whistle or bang, then immediately you know that perhaps you shouldn't be spending too long there.
Yeah. With this being a highly irradiated area, you feel any trepidation at going there, or just excited to get started?
No, excited to get started. I'm working with some colleagues who've actually worked out in the zone previously, so it's not something which is an unknown quantity from that perspective, but the opportunity to work in somewhere like this, in this very unique setting, is clearly something which I think we're all excited about as a project team.
What are your predictions for how the radiation has affected the wildlife around Chernobyl?
The way in which this study is going to progress will take us towards being able to answer some questions about the impact of radiation on a variety of wildlife. My particular element of the project, if you like, my particular area, is going to take us to the point where we've got more of an understanding about the exposure of large mammals to ionising radiation, and from the samples that we take from the blood and tissue samples that we take from those mammals and work that colleagues do, we'll start to get more of an understanding about the way in which the radiation is actually affecting those mammals. What other colleagues who are working within the same sphere would be able to do is then expand that to other groups of wildlife. So hopefully by the time that we've completed this overall suite of projects in the zone, we'll have a much better understanding of exactly how impacts on wildlife linked to the radiation that's present in the zone.
What are the possible implications of your research for incidents such as Fukushima, and how important is it?
One of the main implications of the specific bit of research that I'm going to be doing is we will hopefully be moving from a stage where we have a very simplistic approach to assessing radiation exposure of wildlife, and we just sort of hope that that's an appropriate approach, to, through a proper scientific study, being able to quantify the uncertainty that's associated with our simplistic approach. So we can then make a decision as to whether or not we need to change our modelling approaches, change our risk assessment approach for wildlife to bring it more in line with more complex modelling techniques, or if we can say we're happy with the simplistic approach because it's good enough, it's fit for purpose, and we've got a feel for what level of uncertainty there is.
What other possible benefits may be procured from this study?
Well, there's the potential for learning something about animal behaviour from the perspective that we're going to be GPS tracking large mammals within an area which has had people excluded from it. It's quite rare to be able to study some of these types of animals, so things like foxes and deer, in an environment that doesn't have high levels of human activity. Whereas in the Chernobyl exclusion zone, people have been moved out 30 kilometres away from the epicentre of the disaster. So you have this large uninhabited area with very minimal human activity, and the zone has become quite a biodiverse area. So it would be interesting to see how animals are behaving within that type of environment.
And on a personal note, what do you hope to get out of this experience?
Well, I think there's going to be great personal benefits from working in the zone, working with a range of new colleagues that I've not worked with previously, plus continuing to cement some of those older relationships with well-established research groups. But there's also just the sheer privilege of being able to go somewhere which is entirely new, entirely different, and not somewhere that many people will get the opportunity to go and see. So I think it's going to be a very exciting few years.
And finally, with the most pressing question, are you worried about encountering zombies?
No, I think I can cope with the whole zombie issue. I know that Chernobyl Diaries has obviously made everybody think about the zombie elements, and actually I'm thinking of including that in one of my presentations next year, but I'm not too worried.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Cheers.